Hello. Welcome to Loving's Guitar. You know, if any of you folks have been following me, I'm not sure if anyone is following me. I mean, chances are no one's following me. And you guys have every right to feel that way. In fact, if you're scared, and you should be, frightened, I should say, that, someone like me intrudes into your life, I can come in at any moment of the day and I can just say lunatic things, things that, I don't know, people shouldn't say these things. And then they come out, and then, I don't know, are we supposed to feel guilty every day about the weird things we do? I don't know. I kind of find it amusing that, the stranger things get. Like, the, the greater that feeling is, that I feel like I've accomplished something. All right, so, hey, I don't know. If you happen to be watching this, this is my very, very first. Honest to goodness, wow, that's my cat doing that, jumping crazy. That's so wild. Good for you, Cleo. The most life I've seen out of you in like 15 years. Folks, this is a guitar channel. It's called Loving's Guitar. Yeah, I don't always wear a hat like this. I just, you know what? I thought wearing a hat would just help distract you. Are you being distracted? Folks, I don't know. There could be no one here watching, and it is what it is. You know what? You know what? I think I know what to do now. Okay. They say you should ignore that if whether or not people are watching or not. So this way you don't get consumed with that. So you know what? I'm going to go along with it. I'm not going to be consumed. No, wait. What am I here to do? Oh, live. We're going live. Live. This is my very first live. So if you're watching this, I'm very sorry. I apologize in advance, but we're going to get to some subjects. You know what? And I was thinking about a subject, and I had so many of them, and now they all seem to be going right out the window. And and now I'm outside the house. I'm through a window right now, and let's see, the subject of the day is, you know what I was thinking about? Beginner guitars. No, even worse, not beginner guitars. Screw that beginner guitar crap. You know what pisses me off? Entry-level guitars. Just the idea of this. There's a label for entry-level. Okay, so you're an entry-level. What does that mean? That means like you're new. You're so new that maybe you don't even know what kind of guitar you like yet, Oh, you don't even know if you like guitar. Or you don't even know if it's going to do anything for you. Maybe you don't have the fingers for it. Maybe you don't have the wherewithal to keep up with the program of wanting to get better at it. Because if you're only doing it because, I could read more notes on the staff now. Oh, okay, then you're doing it for reading more notes on the staff. It has nothing to do with guitar. Or if you're doing it to get more chicks. Okay, now that I can understand. Because that's what I did it for. I mean, seriously, I'm not joking. It's the honest truth. Someone asked me back even when I was by the time I was in my 20s, my early 20s, I figured already then jazz wasn't going to get me the chicks. There was no chicks involved in jazz. I mean, you go to a jazz club, and even if you saw all your cool guitar player heroes, the chicks that would come along to see the show, those kind of shows, they weren't. They didn't wear spandex, They weren't wearing stilettos. They didn't. None of that goth stuff, and God forbid they'd shave their hair or like had a mohawk, And suddenly, by the '80s, early '80s, I was already getting kind of like swept away by all the bullshit that was, you know, I was being infiltrated by, like the radio music. Think about it. Poor Waldo. Here, me, I had to live through that 80s crap, you know? And then, of course, as a musician, for heaven's sakes, I mean, the audacity and the insult that we had to go through. Chorus pedals, everything was on chorus. There was chorus on everything. And then the plate reverb came. Oh, it was like, oh, you're just playing with springs? Ew, that's so Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, I should say, you know? And now we're so far beyond that. Well, what's plates? Big deal. I can get it through an app that sounds much better now. So where are we with beginner guitars? Beginner guitars, you know what? If you bought a beginner guitar, if it was sold to you as a beginner guitar, oh God, I get a little teed off, you know. Don't I don't want to sound like I'm anti-beginner guitar. I'm anti this whole label of beginner guitar or entry-level stuff. You know what? Well, let's rewind a little bit. How about this? Oh, there's my cat, Cleo. All right. So now I'm gonna rewind a little bit because I was a 60s kid, you know? I grew up in the 60s. I was born 1962. So by 1969, I'm still a single digit, you know? And I was living in Queens, in Jackson Heights, Queens. And on my block, 2 houses down, 2 apartments down, ground floor apartment. I remember it was a basement because the basement door was open, and this was in the 60s now, around 1969. Woodstock had already happened, so it was already then. It must have been the fall because Woodstock had already happened. Because I remember hearing on the radio as a kid the whole Woodstock thing developing, you know, and then somehow hippies got there and stuff like that. But I was too young to go, you know. I was a single digit still. But in 1969, I got my first dose of what long hair music was, because I didn't have long hair yet, but you know, the Beatles were around, but that wasn't really considered long hair, right? Because I was, even by that time, I kind of my mom was letting me have hair like the Beatles, you know, but I didn't have hair like like Tiny Tim. But a few houses down in Jackson Heights, Queens, in the late 60s, was this long hair guy. I still remember him. Burly guy, but skinny, but burly. That's skinny, hairy, but long hair, and he was playing a Strat. And I remember he was playing through a cable that was coiled, because so you can stretch it out. It's kind of like a telephone cord. And he was playing out of like what looked like a suitcase with a speaker in it, and I guess it was something like an old Gibson type of suitcase type of jazz amplifier, tube amp. And mind you, I was already like smitten by this whole idea of what this electrified guitar, you know. Now, as a single-digit kid, you know, when I say single-digit, that means I'm under the age of 10, fools. I'm the one that's the fool. Because I was foolishly enamored. The very first time I heard a guitar, it was an electric guitar. Well, not, well, okay, no, that's wrong too, because the very first time I heard a guitar was an acoustic guitar in Peru, because I'm Peruvian. And, oh God, this story is getting, we keep on going backwards. Beginner guitars. Now, okay, you know what? Is this going to be a long live stream or a short live stream? And you know what? I don't even give a crap. You know what? I'm just going to stream. Is it still rolling? Okay, we're in it now. We're in it like 10 minutes, over 10 minutes, 47 seconds. And this is what I think about entry-level guitars. I think anything that's called an entry level sucks. But that doesn't mean that you should give up. Because a lot of those entry-level guitars, in my personal opinion, help to kill the whole passion. And I honestly mean that. I honestly mean it's like a pair of ice skates, folks. Seriously. If you give a kid the worst pair of ice skates, oh, finally, I'm certain, with a lot of determination, the kid's will be a skater. But why make that child go through so much punishment and pain and fatigue and hurt, physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, because we have you gift this child beginner skates, entry level skates. Are you kidding me? No. Yeah, I'm sure, it's like a bicycle, I know you can, technically, I think every bicycle needs to be custom made for each rider, correct? Now, of course, you don't know whether or not your child's going to be a bicyclist or want to get into it, so you don't get them the best bicycle, but you just need to get them a bicycle that's relatively in the size range, right? You find these kids like trying their best to they reach the pedals, or all these weird configurations. It's no wonder cycling kind of sucks. The entry levels, they got to survive that entry level shit, because we got to get accustomed to more pain, falling off the bicycle. Because of poor bicycle. And same thing with a poor guitar. And that's what kind of touches me. It's like a poor guitar can do so much damage to someone who wants to play guitar, someone that wants to do more. And so what's required to having a decent guitar? And that's the question. Do you need to get a Gibson, a Fender, a Guild, a Gretsch, Ibanez, PRS? Do you need one of those? No, you don't need one of those. Do you want one of those? Sure, you can want one of those. Should you get one? If you want one, you ought to get one, sure, But I think the most important thing you need to do is just nurture your love of learning to play guitar. Keep doing that. It doesn't matter what kind of guitar you're playing then. With that being said, I want to talk about today's market. And today's market is different than the market of guitars that were even available to guitarists back in, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and now we're in the 2000s, 2010s, and now we're in the 20s, and now it's 2025, and look what's available. Holy crap. I'm not talking about chibsins, right? I'm not talking about, you know, the imposter stuff, but I'm talking about actual legitimate companies that have started from scratch. And they don't have that long legacy like Gibson, Fender, Gretsch, Guild, you know. Even Ibanez, Tokai, you know. But manufacturing and industrialization has advanced so much that nowadays the cost to the cost is not prohibitive anymore to start up these companies. Whereas there was a time when it's like you couldn't fathom trying to start up a company to compete against Fender or Gibson. It was like, are you kidding me? You can't do that. Shut up. You know, what bank's going to give you what bank's going to give you any company any funding for that? Like you want to try to dethrone those two? And I think there was a time when uh, there was fair game in the market, meaning that I remember, you know, in the 80s and 90s, where you can go to, well, these are back in the day when you could actually go to a music store, and sure, there are still music stores around. Thank God, like say Toman and Anderton's, because Manny's is not around. And oh, is it? Are they? I don't know. But Sam Ash is not around. I lived through that. You know, I, it's just to know that I'm 62 years old, or is it 63? I don't remember. but uh, but I'm in my 60s, and I grew up with Sam Ash, like knowing that there was a Sam Ash nearby. And chances are, if I needed to, and I was traveling throughout the country, if I needed something, I'm sure I could find a Sam Ash near me. But there ain't no more of those music stores around. Now it's all online. So now there's no more of that long route, or maybe it's not a long route, but the route that was included, that every guitar players were nurtured by. And that is their buddies, their collection of records. Now, their buddies means that, they weren't their buddies through mobile devices or computers, or they were their friends because they got close to them. They kind of shared the same interests. So if you had a guitarist friend of yours, that's how you hung out. That's what you did on your weekends or late into the evenings. Sure, there may be some grass involved, and maybe there was some, this is when you're in school, of course, you're doing things stupid like, but you're doing it with your instrument, You're a drummer, you're always carrying your sticks, you're a bass player, you're playing with your thumbs. And if you're a guitar player, you're fingering everything you can finger. So, and you go through that life, right? Now, some people don't get to do that. But to those people who are just in those entry level modes, I still think it's a beginner's market, meaning that there's so much information now that the beginner has at their disposal, immediate disposal. At any time, they can wish. It's like, you know what? What do pros think about this? And they query that on YouTube, and out comes a few opinions, And then they go, okay, that guy looks hairy. He plays the thunder chords that I like. I'm going to listen to his reviews. And then you listen to those reviews, and all it is I guess it's a story. So now you're a collection of stories, mind you, and that's beginners. Beginners need a good story. And that's where the value of having a friend comes in, or a mentor or something like that. And they don't necessarily have to be guitarists. I had the really good fortune. I had a few good friends in my life, guitarists, I should say, guitarist friends that I befriended. and they imparted a lot of knowledge on me. So I'm thankful because they sacrificed their time with me. So a beginner is really looking for someone that can sacrifice some time, um, not just being a teacher, because that's not sacrifice. You're actually paying them, for their sacrifice of their time to teach you, the student. That's a whole other. I've been through teachers, good teachers too, and bad teachers. Teachers that inspired me. Some of those teachers weren't even guitar players. Outstanding musicians that taught me more about music, and then I applied it. I even also had amazing lessons as a musician, as a guitar player, from non-musicians. And it has nothing to do with business or anything outside of music, but actually music. And they're not even musicians, let alone a guitar player. So now we get back to the guitar again. What's this entry-level guitar stuff? We get back to the skates again. Now, I don't know how old you are when you're starting to play guitar. That's for you to figure out. Or however old you are, might want to consider this. How much money do you need for your first guitar? And how much money do you need for your first amp? I don't know. You just need enough to get the job done. And you know what? I have guitars that literally cost me under 200 bucks. And they give me such a thrill ride. I can't fathom even for a moment thinking, if this was the guitar I was getting or receiving in my hand like about 40 years ago, I'd be like, are you kidding me? Where's the complaint? No freaking complaint, complete gratitude. I'm so happy, thrilled. Oh my God. People talk about high actions. Oh God, that's called an adjustment. Oh, intonations going out. Yeah, that's called an adjustment. Oh, my nut's not doing this. Oh, you know what? That's called an adjustment. Oh, this tuners don't work. Oh, you know what? Oh my God, you folks, compared to the entire picture with the freaking you know what? Most of the time people gripe about tuners. It's all garbage. I've been playing for over 50 years, and it's hardly the freaking tuners. No, pretty much almost never the tuners. Sure, they can go out. Yeah, some of them get faulty and you replace them. But they gotta go complete faulty, not because of you don't know the brand. You haven't even looked inside the tuner yet. You don't even understand why it's not working if it doesn't work so well. So, and then pickups, yeah. You know what? Again, you can spend a fortune on good pickups. Yeah, you can. If you want, you can spend easily over $1,000 or $2,000. You can. There are pickups. They're out there. That's what they cost. Well, at least that's what people are asking for, and people are willing to pay. No, no. What's an entry-level guitar? All right. Here's the answer. An entry-level guitar is a freaking awesome guitar. An entry-level guitar is the one that keeps you so enamored with wanting more and more and more. That's an entry-level guitar. It's like selling a lollipop to a child. And you can say, you know what? All you gotta do is keep on licking it and the flavor keeps on gushing out. Wow. Imagine. All you gotta do is keep on licking it. Yeah, that's a good entry guitar, folks. A guitar that you can keep on licking. It gives you those licks right back. And you know what? Take your time with wanting the next guitar. Be so enamored with all those licks. That's the entry-level feeling we should be getting, folks. Without that, then you got a crappy beginner guitar. Welcome to your entry-levelness of life. No, go full in bananas. And then you really feel it. And you'll know why you're there. And you're going to be enjoying that moment that you're still in these entry moments. You know, squeezing it out, building it up, you know? Get your rhythms down, hold your pick better, you know? Just get into better posture, you know? If you want to read more music, then make sure you're in better posture. Get a metronome, get a tuner, do it right. Do what the teacher wants you to do if that's where you want to go. If you want to learn that. There's nothing bad in any of this. You know, whether you want to learn jazz, whether you want to learn traditional music, when I say traditional music, I mean classical stuff. Anything classical, I'd call tradition. Traditional music. Something you gotta read, you know? There ain't no there are no guitar tabs. Anyway, folks. And why I think we are living in a beginner's market? Why? Because nowadays, as I mentioned before, for around, between the two or even between the $200 and $300 mark. All right, let's say up to $300. Nowadays, you can actually have a guitar that's kind of like really, if in with all certainty, can be the only guitar you ever really need, and you can actually do it all. It can all make sense, just like that. You're not showing off no big brand name that everyone else is accustomed to seeing. You know, folks, here's another thing, too. You know, back in the day when I was playing, I used to cover the names on my headstock. All my guitars, I covered the names. I thought that was punk. I never wanted people to know what I was playing. I covered all the names on my headstock. I thought that was rad. Sure, I always had 57 classic PAF humbuckers, but nobody ever knew that. I liked making a racket that way. I liked turning, a 1979 Hondo into my punk rock classic guitar. I loved it. And that guitar played more stages than many of my Gibsons. So I have fond ass freaking memories on my punk guitars. And that would be my Hondo and my Electra. Maybe I'll have to show that off one day, more specifically. It's in that episode, Guitars of Lomito. Yeah, those are good times. And now, in retrospect, manufacturers such as like Harley Benton, even East Coast guitars. I can't wait. Actually, I'm looking forward to actually getting an East Coast guitar. But, Fireflies and a lot of those other types. Nowadays, it's this beginner market. What I'm saying is that we're in the bare bones construction of what we're just basic package. It's a good package. It's actually, with just a little bit of tinkering, it's a hot. Most of these things can turn into hot rods, and it kind of blows me away. Like for instance, the Harley Benton. Now, folks, you'll know. I'm not hiding my fandom for Harley Benton because it's quite obvious. It helped me grow this channel. It helped me actually from the get-go, help me get started growing this channel because I was frightened. I didn't know anything about doing this, but I did know one thing, that I've helped a lot of other guitar players, young guitar players in my many years. And for many years, many of my friends have been saying, Waldo, you need to do a channel on YouTube. I love my students, I really do, but I never thought it was going to turn out this way. So what is the imparting message? The parting message today is, I think what I've mentioned in most of my episodes, forget about the name on the headstock, but if it does matter to you, well then, showcase your reason why this is such a good entry-level guitar. If you're in the entry mode. Hey, listen, if the only guitar you have is that one guitar, and you're still in that entry mode, right? Okay. Well, then stand behind that. And you're gonna have to stand like firm with that. And what does that mean then? Now you have to make your own reason of why you have that entry-level guitar. Or screw that entry-level shit. Get yourself a good guitar. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get a good guitar. It's kind of foolish if anyone tells you. It's absurd if anyone tells you that you have to spend a lot of money to get a good guitar. Anyone who tells you that, they're full of crap. 100% full of shit. They should be ashamed themselves. No, you don't need a lot of money. You need a good friend. You need a good mentor, maybe. You need someone who can say, you know what? It's not in the name of the headstock that's going to make you a better guitar player or get a better sound out of that. And there's a lot more things involved. That's why you need a lot more than just a good guitar, whatever that entry-level crap is, Give yourself a chance, for heaven's sakes. So, now I know there's a lot of other guitars out there that are on the kind of same level as the Harley Benton. And I haven't gotten around to exploring those yet. I'll be honest with you, I took a big chance with Harley Benton, that first impression I got from them kind of blew me away. When I got that first shipment, which included, which all started because of that TE62, that pink telly that I have. And it just blew me away. And I really felt good. I felt good because if this is what people can say is now their first guitar, now I say, frick yeah, that's amazing. Good for you. Now you got a chance. That's amazing. Now you got a chance. You get like a TE62. I would say a T, not an ST, because then we're going to get into the Strat bodies and trying to work with synchronizing a trem system. And there's a lot more involved with that. But the honest truth is, I can make any 6-point trem work. Give it to me, I make any guitar work 10 times better. Always. Why? Because it's not rocket science. Maybe it's microscience. Like, you got to look carefully. Look at the nut carefully. You know? I mean, we're talking about a screw movement or so tiny, minuscule, or adjusting the truss rod. But this is the stuff that, the little detail stuff that if you pass on to a beginner friend of yours or a beginner, or if you're a beginner, ask another guitar player how they go around this. Like, hey, my frets are buzzing out here. Maybe one or two of your friends might figure out, well, maybe it's not a high fret. It could be, well, maybe you got to adjust your truss rod. And chances are, if you live in a climate that has, various seasons, that means your neck is going to be moving all the time. So get used to adjusting your necks. Every neck needs to be adjusted. Keep up with it. And guess what? You'll always be playing it as if it's perfect because you are taking care of your guitar. Now, whether you have one guitar, 10 guitars, 50 guitars, well, there's a lot more adjustments that have to be kept up with. I know. And those who have many guitars will tell you the same thing too. What's the point of having a whole bunch of guitars if all your guitars suck when you pick them up and you play them? No, that ain't gonna happen with me. I love my guitars too much. I actually play my guitars. Even the ones, maybe the ones on my rack I may not play so much. They're available to be purchased, and for my students to come also, and they use them. Anyway, so the beginner market, I'm taking advantage of it because it blows my mind way more when I see guitars that are reaching uh, for excellence at the $300 or $400 price point. Amazing. I'm way more impressed with that than the guitars that are like 1,500 but are pretending to be more like at the $45 to $5,000, $6,000 range. That's what I'm saying. Because am I going to get 100 times greater value, more times more than that, than the $300, $400 guitar? I don't know. I'll tell you when I feel it, though. But that's not how. So I don't judge guitars like, neither should you, on the, the freaking price tag. No, you do that. I'm sorry for you. Judge a guitar by how it feels. Then it'll justify the price tag. And if you have the means to purchase it, then you have justified your reason for having it and wanting it and getting it and following through with it. And that's what a good entry-level guitar should do to you. So, that's all I got for today. And I sure hope somewhere along the way you got something out of this. Because if you did, well, God bless you. Wherever point you are at this very moment in life, on your journey, whether you're a guitarist for 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 50 years, guitarist. There's still more to learn. And that's why it's great right now being a beginner. To be a beginner, hell, call yourself a beginner, even if you've been doing this 50 years, because there's still a lot more to learn. There's still a lot more guitars that I can chop up and tinker, play with, and see what else I can do with, and all the noises I can make with it, and a lot more things. Um, Lately, I've getting back into Coltrane. Coltrane's a big influence on me. I love Coltrane. And of course, it was Frank Zappa that really made me a guitar player. Um, Although I had, you know, understood that long-haired people would play guitar loud, that's what I learned when I was a kid. It wasn't until I became a teenager that for the first time, I was in Benjamin Cardozo High School in Queens around 1978. I was on the track team, and right after the track, there was a band setting up in the back of the school. It was a trio. They all had long hair. And I was this skinny little kid, twerp. Tiny little kid. I was playing organ. I remember I got a Lowry organ, one of those organs that they're built for the living room, So I got one of those, and I loved playing the organ, and I had some beats, So, and this is in the 70s, right? But in around 78, in Benjamin Cardozo High School, these fellas started setting up for to play live behind the school, and that was the very first time I actually saw live electric guitar, like loud, finally, because the first time I heard it was just in this little garage, with this long hair guy, around 69. But then, by 78, this group, trio, starts playing, and they were playing some stuff that I was familiar already with, because they played some Deep Purple stuff. Everybody was familiar with Smoke on the Water. They did Lazy, a couple other some other stuff. Well, I think they did a Kinks song. You Really Got Me. That's right, they did You Really. And then they did this thing from Frank Zappa, and it didn't have any words to it, and it became this haunting melody that blew me away the very first time I heard it. And I wasn't a guitar player then, but it was from then on that all I wanted to do was play guitar, and I wouldn't get a guitar for yet another 2 years. So, interesting enough, I walked away from that after watching them play behind the school. I was blown away, but I didn't know the name of the song that this guitar player was playing, and it would haunt me. And I didn't know who the artist was or what it was. But mind you, back in those days, everything you get is coming right from the radio or television, So, and already, Saturday Night Live is up and running. We have Dalton Kirshner's rock concert, the midnight special, stuff that was happening every Friday and Saturday night on TV. And occasionally you'd see a special group like, Jethro Tull or something like that. But hardly you'd ever see anything Frank Zappa. But this one song that this long-haired guy was playing on his guitar just blew me away, and it was this melody, this screaming melody with a stop. And I would learn later, as I was walking my dog, another year later, in the neighborhood. This guy blasting through his his house because the window was open. This song, and I was walking the dog, and the first thing I heard was what I thought were like chipmunks singing, and that was "Wind Up Working in a Gas Station." Okay, which I would learn later on was "Wind Up Working in a Gas Station" from the Zoodalores album. And I was still walking my dog on right in front of his house. My dog's about to take a crap, you know. And suddenly, from the window comes out, bada wah bop, bada bada da da, bada wah bada bada da da. It was Black Napkins. Black Napkins from Frank Zappa. I stood outside this guy's window with my dog. And as soon as it ended, it went into the torture never stops, right? But as soon as it ended, I'm yelling at on the street to the window, "Hey, come out to the window! Come out to the window!" And finally, this guy comes out, and he's out of the window. He's not wearing a shirt. And he's like, "What do you want?" It's like, "What's the name of that song?" and he says, "Black Napkins." And I go, "Black what?" And I said, "Black Sabbath?" No, not Black Napkins. And he goes, "Frank Zappa." Zappa. And then he said Zoodalores, and I didn't understand what the hell that was. So all I got from that was Black Napkins and Zappa. Now, I had never heard of either, but I did know of that melody, and it had haunted me, and it had no words, and it was just like, holy crap, now there's a name to it. So I gathered my allowance, and I went to the department store, and I rummaged through, and I found Frank Zappa's Zoodalores. and and lo and behold, right after Wind Up Working in the Gas Station comes Black Napkins. And I was yeah, it still sends shivers all through my body, because it's it's actually a piece that I have never dared to even transcribe or perform. I have so much awe and respect for what it did for me the first time, and what it continues to do to me every time I hear it. I'm so thankful of that Frank Zappa experience for me. So Frank Zappa to me became basically my mentor. Not so much as guitarist, although he is where I get my greatest amount of influence from, but more as a composer and a person who had taught me more about theory and how to use it, and questions. That's what I liked most about Frank Zappa. Taught me about asking questions, like, what the hell? And that was it. That was my version of being entry, I had a Gibson when I was one of my first guitars was a Gibson. One of my first two guitars were Gibsons, both of them Gibsons. I had a 1962 Gibson SG with P90 pickups that I got in like 1979. And then I also got a Gibson ES 125. This is what I was learning on when I was a kid, teenager, in high school. Uh, I regret ever having parted ways with both those guitars, but they were considered entry-level guitars to me. Can you believe that? Because I was in my entry period. So what's an entry guitar? Fuck you, entry guitars. They have the last laugh, the entry guitars. Why? I'm sure somebody is enjoying my entry-level guitar somewhere, my 1962 SG with P90s, you know? SG Special, right? Is that it? I don't know. Is that what? I don't know what they call it. Man. So, but nowadays, I don't know. Well, what will be in the future? What does that look like in the future? Like, what does Harley Benton look like, say, 50 years from now? You know, like for instance, like the TE52. What does that mean? What will that mean 50 years from now? Will there be a story about that? I don't know. I doubt it. Or maybe there will be. Depends. Depends on, you know, who tells it and why they tell it and the reason. You know, I I have a T. Okay, so I have several. I have several Harley Bentons, and I'll be honest with you. They're all good, but there's some that I definitely feel are just over the top, way better than like even the rest of my Bentons, and some other guitars that are non-Harley Bentons, which then you kind of say to yourself then. Did I luck out? Yeah, I did. You know, uh, with some of my Harley Bentons. Okay, so my top 5 Harley Bentons. I'm going to tell you right now what they are. Because only the live people get to hear this first. Because you guys are putting up with this. Okay, so here they go. Mm. All right, so this is hard, but it's not, shouldn't be. Here it is. I have, no, and I've told you before that I have 2 TE52s, but one of them is in my top. And I don't know why. It's magic. It has mojo. It's killer mojo. It came stock with its regular Roswell pickups, and I just couldn't believe it. As soon as I touched it, it was magic. Now I have another TE52, which is just like everyone else's. It's heavy. It weighs a ton. And it's actually a beautiful guitar. It's just amazing. It's solid, It's like, it feels like quality. Like you feel confident just playing that guitar. Okay, so but there's one of those TE52s that is like my number one, and that's the lightweight version. But then after that, I have also, which I love from Harley Benton, is the SC552. Oh my God, Jesus. Sorry, Jesus, if your guys got offended by me saying that, but holy flip-flops, man. I'm telling you, for those people who dig the Les Paul type, the single cutaway, save yourself $1,000. Seriously, save yourself save yourself $2,000, right? And get yourself a Harley Benton SC552. Period. Don't. Yeah, just get that. Just get that. I would say, listen, it's easy to play. It's got a slim 60s profile neck. And I like those pickups, those Tesla pickups. I think they're fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Yeah, yeah. And also, here's another surprising thing. That JA60 that they have, that offset with those type of pickups, because those are not P90s, but I love that guitar. What an interesting guitar to play, and it makes you feel good. It does tonally sound awkward, and that's awkward in a good way. So, what else? And then, of course, God, there's that DC 35, the 35 plus. Oh my God, it's a semi-hollow body, folks, for under 200 and like what, $260 or something like that. Are you kidding me? And it's split with split coils. Now, I'm not a particular fan of those pickups in that guitar, but overall, what a great guitar. Um, and you just gotta tone down, be a little more conscious on your volume level, because the Roswell pickups. Here's the failure on the Roswell pickups. It's not that they're low output. No, the problem is that they put out too much output. That's the problem. The problem is that they're way too much. I don't know what it is about them. You have to roll them down in order to get good tone. But it is there. It's, you know what, folks, people back in the day, you know, in the 60s and 70s, they just played with their tones in order to get the sound that they needed. And that's what you need to do with that. Also, now it comes to the ST stuff. When it comes to their Strat stuff, personally, I love their ST62s. Like, I got 3 of them. I don't need 3. I like them though. And they're so much fun. So one of them I replaced the Roswell pickups, and I put the Fender Custom Shop. Where's the Custom Shop? No, that's my Nocasters. I put the Eric Johnson pickups in my SD62 vintage white. I love the sound of that. It's Alnico 5 and an Alnico 3 in the bridge, and I did a swap change with the pickups on my lightweight TE52. I put the Nocaster 51s. Love those. And wow, I mean, so now you have a guitar that it's under $200 with no caster pickups. For me, you throw in another $200 there, so say $450. So now you got $450 into a guitar that sounds like a killer guitar. And when we're talking about Harley Benton, we're talking about a manufacturer that has figured out how to contour a neck. I mean, you touch the back of neck of a Harley Benton, the TE62, the ST62s, the TE52s, those caramelized of roasted necks. Oh my God, it's. And here's another thing, folks. Here's one thing to consider if you ever think about it. If you ever want to think about like getting a guitar kit, why don't you think about this? For the price of actually getting a Harley Benton, right? And just stripping off all the paint, take all the gizmos off, all right? And then put it in a box and then reopen the box as if it's a brand new kit for you to put back together. Put together, right? And then you get to stain it yourself. You know what? You'll have a better guitar that way. Why? Because you're going to get a Harley Benton neck. Now, you may have to finish it. You finish it. You have to finish it. You're going to have to do what you need to do with the fret ends, whatever you need to do. But just, if you're there building it and putting it together, just put in an extra hour, do it, finishing up your frets, and you're going to have an amazing guitar, period. So that's all I got for today. You know what? Thank you for watching. It'd be really cool if for the few of you who have watched this and put up with these shenanigans, thank you. On behalf of Loving's Guitar, I would like to invite you to join our fandom, our slowly growing fandom, by subscribing to Loving's Guitar. Feel free to ask me questions. I do like answering them. Hey, let me know if you're a beginner, and if you have a beginner story that involves a Harley Benton. I bet you people this channel or come to visit this channel probably would pick up on some of this info if you have anything to relate. Thank you for watching. I think I've said this a million times before. Drink water and, I don't know, be nice to one another. And one more thing. There's always one more thing. Oh, yeah. See you the next time I get all choked up. Bye. And now how do I shut this off? All right. Something like this? How about that? What if I do that? I don't know. How about this? Does this shut it off? I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. We might have to just keep on doing this. No, that doesn't do it. How does it shut off? I don't know. Maybe like that? Oh, do I want to stop streaming? Yes. End.